picking your quarantine is really a key thing. Like when you start thinking about who will I interact with. I know you and I were talking earlier, and I mentioned like my husband and I are interacting with our his mom and dad. They're following the same rules as we are, but they live in town. They can help us care for our small child. So for us, it was a little bit of a no-brainer because I don't have my own family in town, and it felt safe and good. For you, how did you pick like who was in and who was out?
Well, I mean, in this particular case, it wasn't like I had a whole list of choices in front of me.
You had
You
a
know,
waiting list on your Facebook feed, people being like, idiot. No.
yeah. I mean, there are some other conversations happening now about future bubbles, like further down the line, and there are some questions like if a few of us take a house together outside of town for a couple of months, for instance, who gets to be invited to that house? Who is how big do we want the group to be, and what is everybody looking to get out of being there? So that's a more involved conversation. But for this particular one, it was just these friends offered it, and
Sure.
I said yes. But I think
Yeah.
this is the thing in these conversations, like you might be thinking, why didn't those people invite me, or
Hmm.
should I feel bad that I want to spend time with this person and not with that person? And I think the thing that's important is to feel like, to remember that what you're going into is something that's not just like a regular friendship. There's actually a partnership of a kind. It's almost like starting a business. And so it's okay, and it should be okay. You should be okay with other people as well, making decisions that don't involve you. Don't have hard feelings about it. You only get to be bubbling with one person or one set of people at a time.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting because you were saying talk about why you want to bubble up, which I think is such an important thing, and agree to follow the same rules. How long did it take you to hash out the rules?
It didn't take us that long because in our case, we were pretty much following the same rules already.
Got it.
But what we did was, we had a conversation about what each of us was doing, and we went into a pretty fair amount of detail. And then my friend said, okay, if we're to bubble together, would you be willing to do these things?
Got it.
And wait another 2 weeks, the quarantine period essentially, just to make sure that we're all following the same rules for 2 weeks, and then we're all okay that we're safe. And then we can start hanging out together. So that's what we did.
And you were talking about, talk through your daily routines, which you mentioned to us so people know what to expect. But I wanted to ask, except that none of you is being rational, that just warmed my heart because it seems so self-aware and so true right now. Talk to us about why that was important to negotiating the bubbles or the pods.
I think it's really important to remember that, there is so much that we don't know still about coronavirus, about what the risks are. I mean, we know that wearing a mask, washing your hands, not touching your face, keeping distance, all of these things are really important. But we don't know about specific things like if you walk past someone in the street and they don't have the mask on. I mean, just how much risk are you of getting something from them? What if they're running rather than walking? How much greater is the risk then? How much risk are you at if you touch a surface in a store and then touch your face? We don't actually know. And so I think the thing to understand is that all of us are making our decisions on just how careful we are based on things we've read, on how risk averse we feel, on our mood at any given point. And so when you're negotiating with other people, I think it's really important not to say, oh, you're wrong, you shouldn't be doing this, or you should be doing that, or because none of us actually knows. So this is all about getting on the same comfort level and most important, about being honest and transparent with each other.
And speaking of which, you also mentioned don't post about it on social media, which I found also to be really self-aware because people, I think, can't help, like, it's not that everyone's so judgy or terrible. It's just that, like, it feels like a whole other layer of emotional labor, right? That you have to negotiate. But talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I get depressed every time I look at Instagram, so I basically stop looking at it. I think that if you're going to be with other people, then be respectful of the people who might be watching your social feed that don't have a bubble, that are not getting to do the things you're doing. Don't flaunt the fact that you're having a good time. And maybe, I think that there is also a lot of judgment going around on social feeds about what people are or are not doing. So it's best to just insulate yourself from that. I think something that's important to say here is also, like, this is a tricky, this is not only a fraught decision, like, that you have to negotiate with people. It's a tricky one. And you are putting yourself at a greater risk if you're mixing with other people. And you have to be really sure that everyone's being honest and transparent and they're all taking really good precautions. And I've read things that say you still shouldn't be doing this if you really want to be safe. And so accept that you're taking a greater risk and that you have a responsibility not only to yourself, but to the people you're bubbling with and also to the population at large to not transmit.